Future Rays pitching stars could be making their first showing at spring training.
You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Rays podcast. Locked On Rays is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network, your team every day. And we are Kevin and Ulises.
And we are lifelong Rays fans who have been podcasting about the Tampa Bay Rays since 2019.
Later on today's show, the Rays should be looking to Oakland when it comes to young offensive players. In a few minutes, a little-known player on a minor league deal has an open lane, perhaps, to make the 26-man opening day roster for the Rays. But to start, spring training gives us a sneak peek into the next wave of pitching prospect talent.
So the Rays spring invites list gives us a peek into the future Rays pitching plans. Brody Hopkins, friend of the pod, Ty Johnson, and TJ Nichols are among Tampa Bay's most advanced starting pitcher prospects, and they will be assessed during spring training as they all get invites into February and March, and we'll see how they perform. And Kevin, are any of these guys you think could have a glimpse with the Rays uniform in April 9th onwards, or is it just a little taste in February, March, and we'll see you guys next year?
Yeah, I would still think that it's a little taste in February and March. Rub elbows with the coaching staff and the established major leaguers, get some notes and some intel from Steven Matz and Drew Rasmussen and Shane McClanahan and all those guys, and then work to be a better pitcher in AA and AAA, and hopefully you can earn the call maybe sometime in late 2026 or 2027. What's cool about this, though, is that all three of these pitchers, Hopkins, Johnson, and Nichols, and I know we only want to take minor league numbers with a grain of salt, but as starters, they all had sub-3 ERAs for AA. I think one of the pitchers, Nichols, bounced around from high A to AA, but it's still a splashy statistic to look at. Yeah. All these guys might have the makings of being in the Rays rotation one day down the line, a year, 2 year, 3 year from now. I think the most ballyhooed of them is Brody Hopkins, because all we've heard is great things about his stuff, his repertoire. He just has to handle the command a little bit, which is why you work through the minor leagues. That's why you work with Kyle Snyder in spring training to fine-tune your offerings and your arsenal to be able to throw more strikes. But it would be great if just one of these guys can be a rotation mainstay in the future. Not asking Brody Hopkins to be Shane McClanahan 2.0 without the injuries, but give me a middle of the rotation, back end of the rotation arm that we can rely upon and not go out and have to sign a aging veteran starter for a 1 year, 2 year deal.
And when you talk about things like that, you think, okay, well, if you add that to the 2026 outlook in context of what the AL East is going to be in 2026, or at least what it should be on paper, right. Rays fans might get accustomed to following AAA and AA guys this season more than other seasons, because with the kind of bleak outlook on what we're going to be seeing from the Rays, you might want to be thinking about the future, 2027, 2028. And these guys, Nichols, Hopkins, and Johnson, might be that next wave that can hopefully give Rays fans a little bit more smiles and good times than what we might be getting in 2026.
Yes, and just to underscore here, Hopkins had a 2.72 ERA in 25 starts for Montgomery, striking out 141 and walking 60 over 116 innings. Nichols, who was a 6th-round pick, went a combined 14-3 with a 2.9 ERA, 156 strikeouts, and 30 walks over 133 and 2/3 innings between High A Bowling Green and Montgomery. And then Ty Johnson, who I've got a little bit more on in a second, he had a 2.61 ERA for Montgomery, striking out 149 and walking 38 over 110 in a third inning spanning 26 games. That's what I like to hear, is guys with those ERAs and guys with that amount of innings. I mean, I think we can find enough relievers on the scrap heap, but finding legitimate starters that can go toe-to-toe for a full season and give you at least 25 starts, that is pretty reassuring going forward. And the other note here, I don't think anybody remembers that Ty Johnson was acquired in the deal with the Cubs, the much criticized and cussed trade with the Cubs, whereby the Rays got Chris Morel and Hunter Biggie in return and had to give up Isaac Paredes. So Johnson might be the bright lining in all of this if he can find a way to work it out. And we've seen it before where guys that, were part of trades that weren't the focal points wound up being more impactful than anyone else in a particular trade.
I think that is definitely a lot to shoulder for Ty Johnson to be bearing that. But I wanted to highlight what you said on those stat lines from both from all three of them, Hopkins, Nichols, and Johnson. Look at the innings pitched and then look at the strikeouts. 149 Ks in 110. That's really nasty.
Yes.
141 in 116. Yes. 156 Ks in 133. These guys are missing bats. They're making batters foolish. Now, look foolish. Let's get that next step. Let's see that next growth. And hopefully, Kev, they keep going even better than they did in 2025 so that we can think of a rotation in 2027, 8 with these three guys at the top of it.
Yeah, so really for them, it's, hey, continue to strike out dudes at an impressive clip when you move on to AAA and try not to get in trouble with the walks, because we know, AA has more talent than AAA, but AAA, the players are more refined. You got a lot of quad A players who've been to the dance before, they've been to the show, so they know what to swing at and what not to swing at, more or less. So you're dealing with a higher caliber of player in the sense that they're not going to make those silly swings. They're going to be, more. You're
going to get away with a little bit more mistakes in AA than in AAA.
Right, exactly. And also of note, as far as spring training invites go, Xavier Isaac, Trey Morgan, and Braden Taylor will be back. Those are guys that had disappointing 2025 seasons, so hopefully they're able to bounce back in 2026. That's the thing with prospects. Isaac, well, we know what he had to deal with the brain surgery, but Morgan and Taylor, from one year to the next, it can change quite drastically as far as your prospect profile and where you are ranked in the media and so forth. But it's a great opportunity, as we know, for these young players that are in the mid or high minors to stretch their legs with some of the major league talent, and for the fan base too, to see some of these guys. You've heard a lot about them. Maybe you've watched a highlight clip or two online, but to actually see them in person, maybe meet and greet with them, get an autograph, and kind of make your own decision on, do you think this guy is for real? Is he a future standout? Is he a future major leaguer? Is he a future all-star, perhaps?
And in 11 days, you can go see them at FanFest on February 14th from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. right outside the Trop.
There we go. Speaking of pitching, one little-known name may have the best case, actually, for making the Rays opening day. Hiring isn't just about finding someone willing to take the job. It's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually help your business move forward. And if you want candidates who match what you're looking for, Indeed sponsored jobs is the move, because instead of hoping the right person stumbles across your post, Indeed helps you match with quality candidates by boosting your job listing to the people who fit your specific criteria, like skills, certifications, and location. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, believe it or not, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. Thank you for listening to the Locked On Rays podcast and making us your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. And if you want to take it up a level, for just $5, you can join the Everydayer Club and get this podcast with no interruptions and members-only Discord. Go to lockedonrays.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. As Rays fans, we should all be rooting for Cam Booser to make the opening day roster in 2026. And you may ask, who the heck is Cam Booser? Well, Cam Booser is a 33-year-old journeyman who has big league time with the Red Sox in 2024 and the White Sox in 2025. And believe it or not, even if you haven't heard about him or his story, he might actually have the best chance to make the major league team out of camp because the Rays only have one lefty reliever listed on the roster. Quick trivia question. That is Garrett Clevenger. That isn't Mason Montgomery because he was traded in the flurry of moves this offseason. Now the Rays could get creative and move Ian Seymour to the bullpen or something like that. But I think there's a reason why they signed Cam Booser, because he's another lefty legit reliever who has some major league experience. Plus, he has just an awesome story of how he got to the major leagues.
It's so cool. When you talked to me about this and I read about him, it was fantastic. Dude, we're collecting dudes that are selling solar panels to being carpenters, because that's exactly what Cam Booser was. He started doing after quitting baseball. He said, you know what I would do? I'm going to be making ceilings, right?
Yeah.
Acoustical ceilings.
Acoustical ceilings. He was part of the local union group up in the Seattle area.
That's so cool, man. But he did say that every time that he got up to work, he could not get baseball off his mind. So he tried again, and boom, he actually ended up making his MLB debut at 31 years old in 2024 with the Red Sox. So it's a pretty cool story, man. The fact that he can sit basically at 95 with the four-seamer. He does have a slider. He does have a cutter and has a solid strikeout rate. So let's see what happens. I think it's a cool story. I think it's something that will bring the locker room a little bit more of a storyline to follow for your Rays fans. And
I think more appreciation for, hey, this is what you get to do every day. Throw a ball.
Don't you want to have that guy?
Catch a ball. Whereas Booser at one point was doing, I would assume, backbreaking work in carpentry and acoustical ceilings. He had a real job, for lack of another term. And it's so cool and so funny that we've brought on guys who sold solar panels for a living. We now have carpenters to the equation. What's next? A plumber? A bus driver? I mean, it does add a little bit more panache to rooting for a particular player, especially when you hear about how he went from baseball to quitting baseball to getting a real job. Like, he had Tommy John surgery, labrum surgery, broken back following a bike incident, 50-game suspension for testing positive for marijuana, and some self-admitted attitude problems. And it looks like he's grown and matured since then to get opportunities with the Red Sox and White Sox. And it took him time. Like, it started with him, hey, I have the itching for baseball again. So I understand that he started coaching youth leagues, throwing the ball around a little bit, eventually wound his way up to the independent leagues. We know how difficult it is to get seen there. And one day somebody who is a key decision maker said, hey, we need to bring him up to our organization and see if he can figure it out. So just the fact that he made it back to the majors is, a story for the movies. But the fact that, he's now in his third season playing professional Major League Baseball, that's also pretty cool. And like you mentioned, he has a good complement of stuff. When you look at the 96-mile-an-hour four-seamer and the cutter and the slider, and you just hope that Kyle Snyder and company can work to settle down the command issues a little bit.
And to your point, though, of the attitude change, because admittedly he did have some attitude problems the first time that he was in professional baseball, but it's that mindset switch of saying, you know what, I get to throw a baseball for a living. And I think that only comes after not being able to get paid by throwing a baseball. So he has that mentality. I think that is a positive mentality, a positive mindset that can rub off on the people that are next to him, especially young guys that might just, not think that way yet. Right. Because when you're young, you don't really think about things like that. You have this immortality complex at 21 years old, like we all have had. And I think that's a pretty cool story. Good vibes for Cam Booser. Hopefully he does become a lefty weapon for the Rays at some point this season, maybe coming out of spring training or in the middle of the season.
Yeah. Now, having said that, as a non-roster invite, and despite the redemption story and how cool it is, I'm sure Mark Hopkins gonna have a one-on-one with him and put a feature together. He still has to have a pretty solid spring. You can't just go out there and finish with a 7 ERA and expect him to make the major league roster.
Even though spring training stats do not matter in this context, you can be pulling a 10 ERA and expecting to get to the call up for the 26.
Yeah, and even if you put together a 1.5 ERA, that doesn't mean you're going to be successful at the major league level. A la a guy by the name of Curtis Mead, who hit 800 in spring training, and where's he now?
Year. Yeah.
There we go. So, all right, the Cam Booser story is a cool one. Moving on, taking notes from the Oakland Athletics on player development and contracts. Who would have guessed that for the Rays?
Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a local expert, start to finish, without the stress or the guesswork. They handle everything. To the W-2s to self-employed forms, they do that. They work for your every deduction. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver and gives real peace of mind knowing an expert is handling it. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit turbotax.com/local to book your appointment today.
Thank you for listening to the Locked On Rays podcast and making us your first listen of the day. We appreciate it. We are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network in all the land. The Tampa Bay Rays should maybe look to the Athletics model for extending young talent. Here's the crazy thing, Ulises. The Oakland Athletics, of all teams, and we think the Rays are cheap. Well, the Athletics are also notoriously cheap, maybe even on a grander scale and not in a good way. But in the last 11 months, they've doled out $281.5 million on contract extensions. They most recently locked up Jacob Wilson for $70 million, Lawrence Butler, $65.5 million, Brent Rooker, $60 million, and Tyler Soderstrom for $86 million. Missing from that list is maybe the most talented player of all those, at least offensively, Nick Kurtz, who we know about his monster rookie season, and he
Yeah.
was AL Rookie of the Year, very rare bird. And it got me thinking about something you said a couple days ago or a week ago, where, if Junior Caminero, because here's the thing, Nick Kurtz isn't signing for $70 million or $86 million. You're going to have to at least double that. He's probably on the same wavelength or mindset as far as Junior Caminero goes. But you mentioned something a couple weeks ago or a couple days ago. I'm losing track of time right here. We're back to every day. You've said it to the point where I remember it. If it's too difficult to lock up Junior Caminero at this time, or he's not willing to entertain a reasonable contract extension, look to Jonathan Aranda, look to Chandler Simpson, look to Ryan Pepio, look to someone else. That might be what the Rays ultimately have to do, is don't focus on locking up the biggest piece, but the other complementary talented pieces. The issue is, do the Rays have 4 players that are of caliber and talent as Wilson, Butler, Rooker, and Soderstrom? As far as offensively, I don't think that's the case yet. I think, 2026 is a key year to figure out who is the real Jonathan Aranda, who is the real Chandler Simpson, who is the real Jacob Melton, who is the real fill in the blank.
Look, I think right now on February 3rd, we want to do something. So we want to spend Zalupski's money 100% on this podcast. So that's number one. Number two is it does feel like a good idea to have those complementary parts to be a part of your core moving forward and not have to worry about their salaries anymore. Like, they're going to stick there. And at worst, their salary being fixed is going to be incredibly tasty for other GMs if they come calling for a trade. So that's always there. Now, the Rays did that with Drew Rasmussen a couple years back. They did it with Yandy Diaz a few years back. They did it with Brandon Lau, obviously, but Brandon Lau, not there anymore. Drew Rasmussen, I think it's in his last year with the option. Yandy Diaz, same thing, last year and then the option. But we all know that this is probably his last year with the Rays. So who else is left? I agree with you. Jonathan Aranda, Chandler Simpson, and Ryan Pepio are probably is that podium.
Yeah.
The issue here, Kev, is that.
But I guess my point is, or my question is, would you really feel comfortable giving Aranda today or Simpson today or Pepio today the amount of money that the Athletics are doling out for those 4 players?
So let's say the least amount was $60 million to Brent Rooker, right?
Correct.
Would I feel okay giving $60 million for 6 years for Jonathan Aranda? Yeah, I want to lean yes.
Yeah.
But it's only been one full.
You need to see more.
And I need to see more. And folks, for those that are like yelling at me through the screen, which by the way, you can yell at me and you can leave your comments, but just make sure to drop that like and make sure to subscribe if you haven't. Help us out. Beat that YouTube algorithm. I know you're yelling at me, people, but I'm just gonna say 2 words, and then you're gonna understand where I'm coming from. And I know you know the 2 words, but I want to hear it from them. Josh Lowe.
Yes.
Imagine after the 2023 season, you had signed Josh Lowe to a 6-year, $60 million deal.
Mm-hmm.
And now you are going to be, and this year was the year that it started to go up, right? 2024, 2025, 2026 was the 3rd year in a deal where maybe he was now getting paid $15 million. 16 mil. Tell me how many teams are willing to pay that amount of money plus what he's owed after seeing what Josh did in 24 and 25. Not a lot of teams, man. So there is the risk there after just seeing one season a guy can do to sign him up for something like that.
That's fair. Although I would say if those 4 players were on my team, Wilson, Butler, Rooker, and Soderstrom, I would be over the moon knowing that they are locked
Yes.
up with my organization for an extended period of time. They could always be traded later. Of course, it is the Oakland Athletics, and they're also going through their own stadium issues as well. I guess my point is I'm just envious and jealous of the young offensive talent that the Athletics have that we presently don't have. I mean, we should just combine franchise, have a superpower. They get our pitching, we get their offense, we'd be a playoff team.
100%. But this is the thing. Who else after Aranda and Simpson is there to even
That's
think
the thing.
about?
We don't know that yet.
We
It's
don't
still
have that.
too early. So that's where Carson Williams at some point has to break out. Jacob Melton at some point has to break out. Really, it's
Hunter Fiducia. Who are you? Are you a thing? Nick Fortes. Who are you? I mean, Junior Caminero, do you want money, bro? Or do you want so much money that we are not even in the discussion already?
Right. And here's the other thing. Look, I don't know. I can't sit here today and say the Athletics are going to agree to something with Nick Kurtz, but I would imagine, or at least think, look, he's still going to want a lot of money, but at least there's the idea the Athletics are putting their money where their mouth is. And we have 4 really good players around you. We want them to stay around you to supplement and complement what you're doing. That might get them to think twice and say, all right, I might entertain an offer. And that could maybe one day be the same with Junior Caminero, but I don't think we have enough good proven offensive players as of today.
Which is what happened, in this second wave of Rays success from 19 to 24, which is like you did have some core pieces signed in that, made the other guys be like, okay, that we can do this. We are a team. We are a core. We are going through the same to the same goal. But right now it doesn't feel like that. Right now it feels a lot like what's next? Who can we trust to lead us into the next window?
It's basically let's trust Gavin Lux for half a season. Let's trust Cedric Mullins for half a season. Who is Ryan Valade? Jake Fraley. We can trust them for half a season.
Justin Henry Malloy, Johnny DeLuca. Who are you? Who are you as a baseball player? Can we trust in your talent and skills? Richie Palacios for the next 5 years or not?
Yeah. Should be interesting. All right. On that note, we hope you have a wonderful day and stay safe. Also want to remind you to be one of the first to join the Everydayer Club to get your favorite show ad-free and exclusive access to the members-only Discord channel.